Hello again from my front porch. It is a gorgeous day here in Iowa, and in a little bit I'm going to get some lunch and get out and actually enjoy it. I've been working in my little corner of the world in my basement of my office, but I'm going to go out and I'm going to actually get out and get a little vitamin D. Enjoy some of this sun. It's gonna be good. It's days like today that I am glad I am still here. Obviously, I've had opportunities to relocate to other parts of the country, and who knows, maybe someday I still might. But for right now, I'm here large part because of my parents and taking care of them. But yeah, winter not so much, but days like today, I kind of like it. You know, I'm in a little bit of a reflective mindset, a reflective mood. I had a friend of mine on social media, Doug Van Beek, for any of you here in Central Iowa who know him. Doug was president of the local chapter of what is now the Association for Talent Development. At the point, he might have been president when I joined, actually. I think he was. And the interesting thing was, when I joined that organization, God, I don't even know what year that was. I was working at CompUSA selling training, and my manager, Mark Rice, he suggested that I join this organization as a means of networking. And the reality is the chapter, at least here in Central Iowa, I don't know about other parts of the country, the chapter here generally was divided into thirds. You had one third that were people who were fairly new to being a training person. In fact, may have had absolutely no training background whatsoever. They just got thrown into it. And so then they joined this organization to help them become a better training person. Then you've got another third that had been people who'd been in the training profession for like 20 years or more, that were veterans of the profession, and those are the ones that everybody looked to and was like, oh, I want to be like them someday. Oh, and then you had the vendors, the people who they were trying to either sell training products or they were trying to sell products to training people. And to some extent that makes sense. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to talk any vendors out of being part of ATD. But what I discovered was it was not as fruitful for me on a professional level in that way because. Number one, a lot of the people who were attending the events I was attending were not decision makers. They were at best influencers that could maybe see something that I was talking about or something that I was sharing and take it back and try to get somebody else to make a decision to buy it. That's always problematic because that person is not as invested in selling your product as you are. And so, you're asking somebody who really doesn't care and doesn't have the passion for it to represent you to somebody else. And, that oftentimes that doesn't work. And it didn't really work well then either for me. But another reason that it didn't really work is because my experience at least was that people didn't really want to talk to me with my sales hat on. But see, that was different it's different for me because I wasn't there strictly as a salesperson. Now, that's the motivation for why I was encouraged to join this organization. But I joined, and then once I was there, I recognized that these were, because I'm not a salesperson. I can sell, I can market, I can promote, but I'm a teacher at heart. That's what I've always been. That's what I wanted to do when I was in high school. I knew I wanted to be a journalist and a teacher, but I knew I wanted to be a teacher in some capacity, and so I knew that was going to be a direction that I would go with my life. And I graduated from college with my teaching license, and I proceeded to be a teacher in public school for 3 years, and then decided I wanted to actually also make money, and so that's when I transitioned into the private sector, and have never really looked back, and that's where I still am. I'm still a teacher in the private sector. Well, then I had this period of time where I veered from the pure faith and I went into sales, selling things to teachers, using my background as a teacher to be able to talk the language and be able to make intelligent recommendations to my customers. And I did that for a period of time that I call my dark period. And but it was actually my involvement through the local ATD chapter that really started to realign me to return to the pure faith. And anyway, that's a little bit of a background for that piece, because it sets up what I'm about to say. My friend Doug on LinkedIn made a comment on something that I had posted about how I'd sure come a long way since being that sales guy that showed up at the ATD chapter meeting. And he's not wrong. There has been a really dramatic change, dramatic growth for who I've been. What I was promoting on LinkedIn that he was responding to was actually about 2 conferences coming up that I'm speaking at. Coming up here tomorrow, I get on a plane and fly to San Diego, where I will be attending the ATD, Association for Talent Development. I'll be attending the ATD International Conference and Expo, where I will be speaking on the topic of structured on-the-job training for the 7th year at this conference. This is a huge conference. People come from all around the world to attend this conference, and I get to speak on the very first day, very first slot, in fact, on the very first day. It's like my session is helping to launch the conference this year, and so I'm really excited about this. This is great. ATD, you may be familiar. It's also the people that published my book back in 2018. Through ATD and my involvement with them, my career has just exploded, just taken on. I have been able to do things that I never imagined that I was going to have the opportunity to do. Among those things has been speaking at conferences, doing webinars for ATD, writing articles for their magazine, doing blog articles for them. All kinds of stuff that I've been doing for ATD, and I've had a chance to speak at several different local ATD chapters as well, including my own one here in Central Iowa. But then beyond that, many other entities and organizations, like for example, I said I have coming up here this weekend speaking at the ATD conference, but then in June I'll be returning for the 2nd year. In person. It'd be my actual 3rd year if I include the online conference that they had during COVID, speaking for the Training Industry Conference and Expo. It's Training Industry Magazine, if you're familiar with that. But the Training Industry Conference and Expo will be taking place in Raleigh, North Carolina. And I spoke at that last year, and I get to present to those folks again this year. In fact, just today, I wrote an article for them, and that just hit today. So I'm out there sharing that today as well. But there have just been so many other interesting opportunities, and not the least of which is my current job at Baker Construction Enterprises. It happened because of all of this experience and all of this that's happened for me along the way. And so, that one little comment from Doug really got me thinking about how far I have come professionally, personally, during about the same window of time. Because I first started really dealing with structure on the job training in 2015 when I started working at the Waldinger Corporation here based here in Des Moines. Because prior to that, I really had not had an opportunity to. I knew about structured on the job training. I didn't create it. I didn't invent it. But I knew about the concept. But I'd been working at places like Principal and MetLife, and places that were very structured and very what you taught was defined more by the systems that people use, computer systems, or regulatory requirements, and you didn't get creative, you didn't vary, you stay within these parameters. And so things like structure on the job training, it was a little more difficult to find traction for that because it required changing things up a bit, and that's not really the environment that people want to change things up. But when I went to Waldinger and they were wanting to create a project management program to better, more efficiently train project engineers to become project managers, I talked to them about the structure and the job training concept and how we could build around that. And they loved the idea, and we were off to the races. And it's like that period, that was the same year that I shaved off my mustache of 30 years. It's just been, my life has completely changed since then. That was also the year that I got divorced, and it's just it's like there was this timeline. You know, you look at your timeline, like there's this significant year, this significant part of my life where a whole bunch of stuff happens during that 1 year that then forever alters the trajectory of my life from where it was going to hits that point, and then all of a sudden everything is different from that point on. And it's really astounding to look back and see. And at the time that the stuff is happening, you don't really even notice it. You're not as aware of those things. But then I have a friend like Doug point out how far that journey has taken me, and I look back and I think, wow, he's right. Look at this. And I have made the observation before, but it applies here so well now. I still remember going to my very first ATD International Conference and Expo many years ago back in Atlanta, Georgia. I don't even remember what year that one was, but I went down to this conference in Atlanta, Georgia, and at that point, I had not written a book. I was not talking about structure on the job training. I was just going there as an attendee and somebody who didn't have a great deal of self-confidence in his own professional skill and ability. I was just a training person. I didn't even remember who I was working for at the time, but I was just a team member, just doing my thing. If you'd have asked me what kind of job would I ultimately one day like to have, what kind of thing, I would have described a scenario not all that much different from what I'm doing right now at Baker. And so the fact that I can say that now is like, it's like to achieve that is great. But I look back over that process, and I think back to that first ATD conference, and I remember being one of those people that sort of sat at the back of the room, and just because I felt intimidated by the people who were speaking up front. I mean, those people, I had them elevated. I had them on pedestals in my mind. They must be really incredible if they're actually selected to speak to this room full of people at this. This is amazing. These people, these are the gods of the industry. But even the others in the room, I'm not going to sit down front. I'm not even going to sit in the middle because I'm not as good as these other people here. These are the movers and shakers of the industry. I'm just going to sit in the back and keep to myself, keep quiet. Shut up, Paul. Just watch. I mean, literally, that was my mindset. And I remember being in some of those sessions and watching those presenters and thinking, wow, these people, if looking up there and thinking, man, they talk, they're speaking, they talk about having written articles. Some of them have written books. I mean, if I could just be like that person, if I could be half, if I could be a fourth of what, that would be so awesome, so cool to be able to get to that point. And now, as I said, here I am going to be speaking at that exact conference for the 7th time. At an entity where I will have my book that they published in their bookstore. I will have an author book signing where I will be signing copies of my book for anybody that wants me to do so. And I will be doing that. And I've written articles for them that they're going to be available there. They're going to be, and it's just like, wow. I have become that person that I revered way back then. And I sort of jokingly, self-deprecatingly dismiss it by saying, so see, I've proven that you don't really have to be all that special to do this kind of stuff. But the truth is, the honest truth is, I I am just amazed. The opportunities that I have been so blessed with. I trace it again all back to my involvement with ATD. That's where everything started. Thank you, Doug. Thank you to everybody who helped establish my professional credibility, and to the organization itself for giving me the opportunity not just to speak at the conferences, but then having me write the book for them, and doing all these other different things over time that also promote structure on the job training. And then the other entities like Tice, who has me coming in June. And there are other conference possibilities coming up yet later this year. So we'll see where those turn out too. But yeah, it is something. It is something to just kind of sit back and sort of take a little personal inventory of where the road has taken me so far. Just like this day here in Iowa right now. It's pretty nice. I'm pretty happy. And with that, by the way, next time you see me, I'll probably be in San Diego. So for now, I will let you go from right here, from my front porch.